millions of people are dying. So I would argue that what we're doing currently is killing people, and somebody needs a new method.
My family had 9 generations of alcoholism, so I had my issues with that. I tried maybe AA is right, and I'm powerless over alcohol, blah, blah, blah. And I just couldn't resonate with that.
The behavior, the drinking, when you're drinking as your central coping mechanism, it's all you do to deal with the world. That's the symptom.
Is there a singular root cause?
We lie to ourselves, and by extension, we lie to other people. You need to have some people in your life that you can have transparency. The weight of lying, the weight of pretending, the weight of disconnecting from your true self by creating this armor of who you pretend to be, the mask, it kills us.
If you're not leaning into that one thing every single day and dealing with that discomfort instead of glossing it over, you're still going to get stuck.
My argument is this.
Welcome to the Mark Divine Show. I'm your host, Mark Divine. Thanks for joining me. Super stoked you here. You are in the right place if you are committed to transformation and vertical development, meaning growing who you are, not just what you know. This is a tribe of bold leaders committed to growing courage, resilience, and heart. So if you like to lead with purpose and unlock your full potential, then you found your team. Hoo-yah. Super stoked to have Dr. Jaffe with me today, who doesn't just talk about transformation and teach it, but he embodies it. Dr. Jaffe went from drug dealing and jail time to earning a PhD from UCLA, becoming a nationally recognized expert on addiction, mental health, and personal growth. Dr. Jaffe is the best-selling author of The Abstinence Myth and Unhooked, which came out in January, right before the fires.
Right as the fires were starting.
Oh my gosh. He's a founder of Ignited, a groundbreaking platform helping people break free from shame and create real and lasting change. If you faced a crisis or felt stuck, this conversation might be just what you need to hear. Adi, thanks for joining me today. Super stoked to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark. This is great.
Yeah, all the way down from LA. You're talking about the fires. Your book came out right when those fires hit.
The day they started.
So nobody could talk about the book. PR probably went flat.
Yeah, well, book release is one of those things where it takes you a year or something to write the book. You're prepping the marketing the entire time.
Right.
We literally had the book launch party at my house, like 70 people or something like that at the house. Got all on social media, and then the next day just crickets because, I think the book talks about an important topic, but not when thousands, if not tens of thousands of people are losing their homes.
Right. We're experiencing more and more of those crises, right?
Yeah.
At a political level, what happened, holy cow, with Charlie Kirk. And
Oof.
It's insane. And I think that moments like this, people who are stuck in patterns of addiction, codependence, things that they can manage when things are okay, where they have a sense of control.
Yeah.
Suddenly it throws them into like a complete sense of, I don't have any control of what's going on. And it kind of exacerbates, right?
Yeah.
Their suffering.
Yeah. Look, I've heard you talk about the impact of stress and the kind of long-term uncontrollable stress. And I think you're right. I'd say it a little bit like this, right? Everybody has some coping strategies that they depend on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, especially for high achieving
some healthy,
executive,
some unhealthy, right?
Sometimes they have relatively unhealthy ones that they keep at bay, I'll say, most of the time. But when stress increases, when it ratchets up and they get to these do or die moments, if they don't have ways of dealing with that unhealthy coping, they lean on it more. And that's when the drinking, that's when the technology addiction, that's when porn. I've dealt with people with, work can be the addiction, right? When all of a sudden you become incredibly myopic, you don't see your family, you disentangle relationships and you just go all in on work because that's the place you feel safe.
Right.
And we were talking a little before, you work with people and this stuff has been around for decades oftentimes. Since they were kids. Right.
Yeah, usually they grew up in an environment that had those kind of baked into it. So they were learned behaviors often.
Yeah. And so during the fires in LA, there was an exacerbation of that because people felt completely untethered, right? The Palisades fire, for instance, in particular, is an area that has never really been hit by fires in that way. So a lot of people were completely unprepared for it, lost everything in moments. And so mental health was a big topic, but, you kind of have to take a back seat sometimes. We do,
Mm-hmm.
I think we do important work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I fence our firefighters and
Mm-hmm.
we're literally on the ground doing that work. It's like you
Yeah.
got to let those people
You
do
first,
their work.
right?
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
It's like triage, right?
Yeah, exactly.
First, take
Triage.
care of the life-threatening thing,
Exactly
and then you
triage.
move
Yeah.
on to. But the problem with that is mental health has become life-threatening for a lot of people.
Mm.
Right? Suicide is just through the roof. It's been increasing every year, and it hits men particularly like 2 to 3 times as much, as women in
Yeah.
all age groups, and it gets worse as the male gets older.
Yeah. And I think, I was listening to a few episodes that you were talking about, and, we both work with executives and high achieving men. You have this military background, which is probably even more exacerbated about what I'm about to say right now, right? The idea of showing vulnerability for men is really frowned upon in most arenas, but certainly for high achieving men who have built a career, whether in the military or outside of it, out of seeming like they have all the answers all the time.
Right.
And, for a lot of women that I know, they've been sitting around in circles talking about what's going on inside since they were little girls. I have a 7-year-old daughter. She probably does more emotional breakdown with her little friends in elementary school than I did with most of my friends until I was in my 30s, and I figured out it was important.
Right. Speaking of your background, tell us about the journey from the streets or whatever you were doing to incarceration, and kind of what was that like, kind of skimming off the bottom, and how did you find some a way out of that?
Yeah. So first of all, I grew up in an upper middle class family, right? I always remind people as I start telling the story,
You weren't down and out kid.
This was not part of the script for me, right? I mean, I went to a really great public, but really great high school. My parents moved from Israel, which is a controversial thing to say out loud right now, but it was just the reality I was born into, moved from Israel to the United States, lived in suburbs of Chicago and then upstate New York, went to great high schools.
I'm from
really,
upstate
really
New York
good
too,
friends.
by the way.
Oh, yeah. So Rochester, I was just a suburb of Rochester, New York. Brighton High School, shout out to everybody from there. Great high school, had friends. And what I didn't realize at the time, what I didn't know, is the separation. I grew up in the same apartment from the age of 0 to 14. And then at 14, we uprooted everything and went to the States. It felt like an adventure, but I lost all my social support. I lost, you grow up with this idea of what life is going to look like. And I lost all that in a moment and kind of found myself ungrounded, suffered with a lot of social anxiety, maybe some mild depression. I had nobody to talk to about it. First of all, my family didn't talk about feelings. Secondly, my dad and my mom were also uprooted. And so they were dealing with their own stuff in this new country.
Israel culture is fairly stoic, isn't it?
It's stoic. My dad was Scandinavian, which is even worse. Like incredibly stoic, right? I kind of joke when you live in Norway and Sweden.
Right.
It's about survival, right? You make it through the winters and you're pretty happy that the summers showed up and you just keep going. My dad had no emotions, worked his butt off. But no support, no conversation, no touch. Also, there was a lot of logical conversations, but not a lot of touch.
But you didn't have any negative like verbal abuse or emotional abuse or anything like that?
No abuse. Now that I've studied attachment, I've studied all this, it was really more neglect than abuse, right?
Right.
I mean,
the absence of the nurturing.
Yeah, and my parents loved me
incredibly.
It's just like hugs were not a part of what we did. Physical touch was not a part of what we did. My mom was born to a Holocaust survivor. I mean, I know the reasons why, and that was the environment I was born into. So with all the social anxiety, I looked for any ways to fit in high school, and I found alcohol and then weed. And, it started slowly. I tell a story in the book about how I started drinking, and it was just, I didn't want to say no to anything that could make me more included. So when drinking got introduced, I was about 15, 14 some. And I said, absolutely yes. And then I drank, not knowing what the actual results were, right? I was just drinking to fit in. But the moment alcohol made it into my system, my anxiety went away. And it was the first time, I didn't know to call it anxiety. I didn't know how to label it at all, but I felt better than I'd ever felt before. And so I started leaning on alcohol. This is about 14
And when you
to
do
15.
that before your brain is fully developed, right? Then you're 15 years old, and then changes your neurochemistry as well.
Changes your neurochemistry, becomes one of those coping strategies we were talking about earlier. Now I don't need to work on my anxiety. I just drink and it's better.
Right.
Start doing it every weekend. Next thing you know, I'm doing it more than just the weekends, right? It starts on Thursdays. Then I get introduced to weed and cannabis around 16. Same idea. This girl that I really liked hands me a joint while we're all sitting around. I'm not going to say no because I like her. Pick the thing up. By the time I got to college, I was a daily drinker and weed smoker. I mean, literally every
Mhm.
single day.
Mhm.
And then as it escalated through college, I was having like shot contests with friends, which a lot of people probably have had,
Yeah.
but I was doing it near daily.
Wow.
And I'm 165 pounds right now. I was probably 150 back then, just throwing back shots. I'm not a big guy.
That's painful to think about.
Oh,
I mean, my fraternity at Colgate University, we drank a lot of beer, but we didn't do shot contests.
it was it was not pretty.
Wow.
And the thing is that as it was happening, I was actually sinking into more and more depression
Right.
because I had no coping other than the drugs.
Hey, team. I'm always looking for ways to train smarter, recover faster, and live with more intention. That's why I trust Bubs Naturals. This is a company built on performance, integrity, and legacy. It's named in honor of my friend Glenn Bub Doherty, a SEAL who gave his life in service. Bubs Natural lives out his mission of self-improvement and helping others by donating 10% of all profits to veteran causes. The Bubs product line is clean, simple, and powerful. Collagen peptides for joint and muscle recovery, MCT oil powder for mental focus and sustained energy, and electrolytes to hydrate better than water alone. Everything is NSF for sports certified, Whole30 approved, and made with ingredients that you can trust because your body deserves nothing less. I use Bubs every day in my coffee and in training and on the move. Check them out at bubsnaturals.com, BUBSNATURALS.com. Use the code UNBEATABLE for 20% off one-time purchases or any subscription. That's amazing. What a great deal. So check it out. Bubs Naturals, die young, as late as possible. Now back to the show. Hoo-yah. Were you an athlete or did you have any healthy outlet?
I was an athlete in high school.
Yeah.
But, and this may be important for some of the people listening to your perspective, it started dropping away as the alcohol and the weed came in, and I didn't notice it, and my parents kind of let it go. But I was a 3-season athlete, so it was like football, swimming, and tennis. Like it just
Yeah, I did swimming and tennis and soccer in the fall.
yeah, and so it was just like
Interesting.
every season I had something to do, and then slowly the team stuff went away, and then eventually the individual stuff went away because I just didn't care. It kind of dropped away my need to prove myself, and I think that's what you were talking about earlier, right? If you don't want to look at the darkness, you just want to hide from it. There are a lot of methods to hide from your own darkness. Really quickly, that escalated into harder drugs. I had a bad breakup, more depression, started using cocaine, started using hallucinogens, eventually found ecstasy and then meth. And then meth was the one that really took me away because meth made me feel like a super robot, right?
Really?
All my feelings disappeared. I had no feelings, and I could stay up for 2 or 3 days at a time.
Wow.
And so I started living this kind of rotating vampire sort of lifestyle. The drugs started costing a lot of money. I started selling them, became really successful in drug dealing. And that was about a 5-6 year process that I just described. And then all of a sudden I'm in college making a lot of money, selling drugs, partying all the time. But it was just, it got dark fast. And towards the end, and I opened the book with the arrest that ended this, but towards the end I was living, I don't know if you've ever seen those movie Traffic or any of those drug dealing kind of movies, full cartel life, right? Like 2 navigators or a navigator in Suburban pull next to
Did you
each
have an
other.
organization above you that you were kind of beholden to?
I had a guy who was connected to cartels
No shit.
immediately, and then I had about 4 or 5 guys that were working for me. So it was, I kind of joke, it was the first business I ever ran.
You probably learned some valuable skills.
Oh my goodness. I mean, valuable skills, but
Yeah.
I got a gun because I've been
Dangerous
held off
skills.
at gunpoint. I had a sawed-off shotgun under my car seat because, I got robbed twice. And in my irrational thinking, instead of getting out of the game, I was like, oh, let me get guns so I can protect myself. And so it did not end well.
Yeah. So how did you get rolled up? Like someone snitched on you?
I don't know for sure, but there's a 90% probability that somebody snitched on me. I actually had a motorcycle accident. I was riding a bike delivering drugs, and I got hit by a car, but I didn't even fall off the bike. I was still holding on the bike, and my leg, my tibia and my fibula broke, so my leg was just gone. And I got off the bike, laid on the ground, and there were cops there within 2 minutes. And the first cop car that got there was an undercover cop car. So my sense is they were already following me as I was delivering, but nobody ever told me whether somebody snitched. They tried to get me to kind of give up my organization. I didn't for 3 months, and then they came down with the SWAT team and arrested me in full full riot gear in my
Holy
house.
cow.
Yeah, it was quite a wake up
That
call.
must have been traumatizing.
It was traumatizing, and I don't know how to equate it to military life, but you sort of take for granted that one of those days may come
Right.
when that's what you do every day.
Did you feel any sense of relief that suddenly that it all stopped?
It took a moment, not even a moment. It probably took a couple of weeks for the relief to really come.
Bet.
So initially I got woken up at 8:30 in the morning with the shotguns and 12 guys in black gear
Jesus.
in my
That's
room.
a little overkill.
And I had a gun next to my bed, and I thank God every single day
You didn't reach
that I
for that.
didn't have the notion to reach for it, because
Right.
I wouldn't be here right now. I mean, they would have shot me in a second if I reached for a weapon. And so, they carried me out of my bed. My leg's still broken. I'm in a wheelchair, and they carried me out of my bed, put me up right. I had this huge Scarface poster behind my couch in my living room. Like, remember the big college posters? They were just massive. So just sat me in front of that, and it was so ironic. I'm just literally sitting there with a broken leg. He's got a broken arm in the thing, and I think it slowly started dawning on me that this is a sign. Call it the universe, call it God, whatever you want. That it was a big stop sign. Like, you're done. Your leg is broken. You're in a wheelchair. SWAT team at your house searching for everything. You've got to figure out another way to live.
For sure. It's interesting. I've been revisiting the law of attraction.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of randomly, someone said, "Hey, your business has been struggling the last couple of years. Maybe there's some thought patterns that And so while you're talking about this, like, you literally attracted that through your thoughts and your actions, including, seriously, listen to me. Literally, she lights up now. I'm like, stop that. Including, this idea that eventually you're going to get rolled up by the cops or the SWAT team. So you literally manifested that entire scenario.
Yeah, and as you talk about that, and I think this will parlay into a later conversation, I also manifested that in the relationships that I had in my life, right? I had nobody that was really close to me. Everybody I knew were either dealers that I was buying from, and that was the relationship, guys who were selling for me, and that was the relationship, or, women, and you can kind of imagine the kind of women I was spending my time with around that time. It was the underbelly of Los Angeles, and I was living in that space, not trusting people lying, cheating, stealing around me all the time. And so it was crazy. I was surrounded by people because we were always around each other, and there were always customers coming in and out, but I felt completely alone.
Wow.
And it wasn't until the broken leg in my room, SWAT team coming in, that I really was fully isolated. And it was, again, it's the universe will keep teaching you the lessons you need to learn, right? You don't learn it the first time, it'll teach you the second, third, fourth, fifth time until you figure it out.
Fascinating. So you can go one of two ways in prison, right? Play the victim or say, okay, this is it. And we're talking about the idea of crisis. Crisis means opportunity for transformation.
Yes.
And so many people do transform when they hit bottom because they can't go any lower. So the idea of the thought stream that you're going to keep on digging yourself a hole, you can't. You've hit the bottom.
Yeah.
You can't dig any deeper. So you've got to change your thinking in order to figure out how to crawl out of that. And so tell us about that. And I'm curious, with prison, how many people, in your experience of prison, how many people are able to crawl out and recreate themselves a positive life, and how many end up just getting out and repeating the pattern? I'm sure there's stats about that too.
Yeah. Look, the numbers are unfortunately low. It's kind of why I do the work that I do, trying to give people that hope, right? I mean, you talk about law of attraction. Many people who end up incarcerated have had years and decades of learning that they're losers, that they can't get anything done, that their future is bleak. So
that's their dominant thought.
They don't have an understanding of a future that is different than that. Again, I was really lucky in multiple ways, right? I came from a background where working hard and achieving, my dad was a physician, a well-known physician, wrote books, made money, right? Like, I had that model.
You had that contrast.
I just rebelled against it, and we can talk about why, because I know at least some of the reasons why. But so that's one piece. I also want to point out one other thing. I'm a big believer that you can choose your bottom. And what I mean by that is things can get really bad. I mean, you were talking in a different pocket, like, it can always get worse, right? That's one of the sayings. It can always get worse, all the way until you die. It can always get worse. So I found myself after that arrest. I got arrested. I had the weapons in the house, and 13 felony counts that they were charging me with. I had a $750,000 or $800,000 bail.
Wow.
And I was talking to my dad, and again, upper middle class, right? Not wealthy, but okay. And my dad was looking for whatever was going to cost $100,000 to bond me out. And I said, Dad, don't even think about spending $100,000.
Okay.
I got myself in here. Just give it a couple of days. Let me go see a judge. Let's see what we can do. And so pretty quickly, and I'm pretty proud of this piece that showed up for me in that bleak moment, I started taking responsibility for what just happened and not trying to get somebody else to rescue me. Went in front of a judge about a week later. So 5 days just kicking meth in jail, right? Sleep, eat, sleep.
How long would it take normally to like feel clean and sober from that?
I mean,
months probably.
I was using an 8-ball of meth a day. So it's about 3.5 grams of meth every day. I was using a lot of drugs. And it took me about a week to just be able to stay awake because my body just shut down. It was just sleep.
Wow.
People would literally wake me up for food, and then I would go back to sleep right after for a full week.
Wow.
And when I went in front of a judge, it was a holiday weekend over maybe even Labor Day weekend. I don't remember exactly, but they lowered my bail from that $750,000 to like $100,000. So now it's going to cost $10,000 to get me out. Like, okay, now I'm okay asking for the help. Get me out of here. Let's fight this case. And that little lesson, and there were more, and I can share some of them, but there were more lessons, which was just full accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach that to all my clients now.
Accountability.
You're the one responsible.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming. Nobody's going to save you. The more you look out for somebody else to rescue you, the more power you give away.
That's right.
I have this exercise in the book called the sphere of influence, right? Split the world up into things that you fully control. There's not many of them.
No.
Fully control, things you have some influence over, and things that are completely outside of your control.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about this.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it to the side. And by the way, that could be like geopolitics and news and weather, right?
Yeah, things that people take so seriously, and they let those things dictate their attitude.
They literally run their brain. Like,
Yeah.
no offense, I feel terrible for the people suffering in Ukraine and Russia right now on the front lines in the war. I can't spend half my day thinking about it. I've got a family, I've got a business, I've got clients, I've got my own life to manage. So that's orient to just what can you fully control? And that's what I started doing, but it took a long time because, as you mentioned, the hole was so deep.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked how long it took to get normal. If I'm honest, it probably took 6 months before I started feeling like I could even understand what normal is. It probably took about a year before my body was fully back into a state where I was more in control of my actions and my thoughts,
right?
Which is, mindset runs everything, than the drugs or even the money. One of the things I was addicted to badly was the money. I went from having 2 cars, a recording studio, and an apartment in Marina Del Rey, and a motorcycle, to living in a Civic that my parents helped me get because all the money was gone, right? They'd gotten everything. And surfing friends' couches in between rehabs because I got myself kicked out of rehab. I went down to nothing. And that was humbling, but that was a good thing that was humbling.
So you went through the legal process. You obviously spent some time in jail.
Yeah.
How much time did you have to do? How much time?
I just did 1 year.
1 year.
I got what's called a 7+1. So they gave me a 7-year suspended sentence and a 1 year actual sentence. And they said, if you screw anything up during that 1 year,
you're doing
the other 7. And that kept me clean. I call it the sword of Damocles. It's like, it was just like this little sword hanging right over my head. If I screw up, and that meant like a dirty drug test, anything.
But you couldn't do that stuff in prison, so. Or was it after prison for the next 6 years as well?
Yeah, including probation.
Oh, okay.
So I had 5 years probation, but you would be surprised what's available behind the walls. I mean,
really? Yeah.
People sneak in drugs in their butts when they're people are innovative. Let's just put it that way. And if you really want to use, they make wine. They call it Pruno, but they make horrible alcohol out of fruit and bread. It's disgusting. It's crazy what people
That's interesting.
It's crazy what people could come up with in jail.
Besides this extreme, I'll borrow from my teammate Jocko Willing, this extreme ownership, right? Full accountability living. What was like, what were some of the other lessons from prison?
By the way, I love extreme ownership. I teach it to
Yeah.
many of my executive clients now, or on teams in particular. So extreme ownership was a big piece. There were many moments though where I had to realize, oh, I'm not extreme enough yet. Right?
Really?
You're still
hiding something.
I'm
from
still
yourself?
hiding. I'm still lying. I'm still pretending to be A when I'm really B. And it was stripping all that away over months. I mean,
But in prison, don't you have to kind of wear a mask, just to survive, or just to like, prove that you're tough and you're not going to be taken advantage of?
Yeah, but it goes through these cycles, right? So I went to rehab for about a year before I went to jail because my lawyer literally essentially looked at me and said, look, you're 125 pounds and you look terrible. If you show up in front of the judge like this over the next however many months we have to fight this case, you're going to prison for a long time.
Really?
So I had to clean up long before I went in front of the
And the
sentencing.
system allowed you to do that?
Yeah, so, lawyer fighting the case. It took a year to fight that case, and I was in rehab the whole time. Got kicked out of one rehab for using. So that's one of those moments where I was pretending to do the right thing, but still lying. And how many times have you worked with executives who on their face look amazing, right? Their LinkedIn profile is perfect.
Totally.
Their pictures on their Instagram with their friends are amazing, and they have these used things that they're hiding from.
Right.
So I was one of those guys, just not really successful yet. And so that was training, to be honest. And I'll say by the time I went in, there's a deep focus. And the focus is, and again, this is what I love about talking to somebody with this, deep military experience. Like, you're going to find yourself in situations that suck objectively. Anybody who would be put in that situation would have anxiety, would have fear. They would have trepidation. They would worry about whether they can make it out or not. Okay, but you're here.
Yeah.
So people ask me all the time, like, how'd you make it
deal
through?
with it? Right.
What? Nobody gave me an option.
Right.
You walk in a cell. When I was in these small cells, like 3 people in the cell. Gangbangers, guys who are talking to the people on the cell next to them about who they're going to kill when they get out. Okay, I'm here. I got to figure out how to get along with these 3 people or I'm screwed.
Yep.
And, people talk about public showers, but I'm talking about like single bathroom in the middle of a room with 50 people and you got to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom, right? There's no, so a lot of the stuff that we take for granted gets stripped away.
Yeah.
And you talked about you have to pretend. Actually, I wouldn't say that I pretended. I just had this singular focus. I'm here until they let me out. I'm going to do everything on the sidelines to get myself out. But when I'm here, I can't be afraid. I just have to deal with whatever's there.
And what was a day like for you?
It changed as I moved to different cells because of the guns and everything. I started out as really high risk. And then as I spent more time in jail, my risk went down. Ironically, I would say I actually didn't like it when the risk went down because then you get into these dorms. And the dorms are the worst parts.
Free for all. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, they're segregated by race. I walked down the black aisle one time and almost started like a race riot in the room by mistake. I got into 2 fights in the dorms. Everything was totally fine in my 2 and 3 man cells. But again, and interestingly, it was this challenge. I just looked at it as a challenge. Jail is the only place where you can be bored and scared out of your mind at the same time. It's like
I can see that.
Time. First of all, they don't even turn off the lights. I mean,
even at night?
No, not at all. It's terrible. It's a terrible place to spend time in, and you just have to figure out how to make it. I have some good friends who've spent really, like Afghanistan.
Did you have any
tours.
Like mental games that you played or mantras or give us kind of like the internal state? How did you get through the day?
Yeah.
For a whole year, 365 days.
Yeah. At some point in the middle, I started journaling.
Okay.
And so they give you papers and these little pencils. And the journaling was really about what I'm going to do after I'm out. So it was really forward looking. And I was just focused on, okay, I'm going to spend the time that I was here. And it wasn't exactly clear how much time I'd really spend. They wouldn't let me do house arrest because of the guns and all that kind of stuff. But it was confusing. So there wasn't a lot of certainty about when I would leave. It was, not POW because I wasn't a soldier, but it was like, you're here up to a year. You don't exactly know how much time you're going to spend. So there's a lot of confusion around that. And so I would focus on what's happening after. I talk to my family a lot, so collect calls, that kind of a world. And then when I was in the smaller cells, to be honest, I can find a way to converse with almost anybody. And that was one of the things that I love about the work I get to do now is I've gone far down, right? I mean, that's for most of the people I work with, my bottom was pretty low. So that removed my judgment around almost anybody.
Right.
So I could sit with a gangbanger and just talk about their family or what's going on. We could have conversations. And I think I heard you say this in one of the podcasts, right? A lot of people replace connection with performance. And I think one of the things I was able to do, and it led me to my work later, was just try to find common ground with the people around me.
Isn't that fascinating? You went from a drug dealer with no ability to connect, you're super alone, and you found connection in prison.
Yeah.
Through necessity.
Yeah, exactly. Necessity.
That's cool.
You realize how hungry you are. By the way, I was equally as hungry when I was outside, but by not being able to show vulnerability,
you didn't have the necessity.
You know, I had this notion in my head that I had to play this macho guy. Like many of the clients that I work with now have this idea in their head of what a CEO is.
Right.
So they act like a CEO instead of being who they are.
That's interesting. So let's kind of shift focus. You get out and you start. You probably did. And let me ask this question: did you have an idea that you would launch this kind of coaching business and help people? Did that come through your journaling, or did that come after?
No, I think I'm the classic example of I just did the next thing that was in front of me, and just that would. I compare it to, remember on PCs we used to have this Minesweeper game
Totally.
where you'd click on a button and then either you'd get a bomb or like a new room would open up.
Right.
That's what my life felt like. I would try these things and some of them would complete dead ends. Like I got my it's a CBEST certification to become a high school teacher.
Okay.
I got that certification because I had no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I knew I couldn't go back to dealing drugs. Because everybody I knew was either dead or in prison for long periods of time. I was like, I can't. That can't be where I go again. But I had no idea what to do. So I tried to go to become a teacher, but then surprisingly, people with 9 felonies are not exactly the kind of crowd.
You're not getting the callbacks
schools want.
Right.
So I tried to get other jobs for about a year. I couldn't get hired at a pizza delivery job. I couldn't get hired at the mall. Nobody would hire me.
That's a big problem, for prison population. They just get out and you got a new lease on life, but then no one will take you. No one.
I mean, nobody. I probably applied to 70 jobs during 9 months. Nobody would take me. And again, I'm a privileged man, right? My parents were paying my rent while that was going on. First back at that sober living that I got sober in, and then later in an apartment. And so what ended up happening is about 9 or 10 months in, I said, look, I can't look for work anymore. This is insane. And I went back to school. And the reason, and I swear this was the only reason, Cal State Long Beach, about an hour north of here, didn't ask the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And when I saw that, I said, okay, I think I could get in there. And that was just the next step. I couldn't get work, so I went back to school. And the guy, Dennis Fisher, who was my advisor, that's who they linked me up with, just so happened to do research on drug addicts. And so he gave me my first job. Because he said, hey, do you want to go work in my research lab? And I said, 100%. So I kind of found this back door to work.
As a researcher or a subject?
As a researcher.
That's awesome.
And I sat down with homeless injection drug users doing these interviews. And I went, oh my God, I'm really good. I love doing this.
Yeah.
And you talked earlier about having purpose. And so I fell into purpose coincidentally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Right. Your first book, you talk about, well, you titled it The Abstinence Myth. Let me share my connection with that idea.
Please.
Right. So my family has 9 generations of alcoholism. And, so I had my issues with that.
Sure.
And so I tried I'm like, okay, I think maybe AA is right. And I'm powerless over alcohol and blah, blah, blah. And I just couldn't resonate with that, right? Because it felt like doing violence to myself. Because I enjoyed it. There was something about the socialization and the connection, and as someone growing up in a lot of trauma, there is that kind of biochemical kind of reaction. So I'm not producing enough dopamine, and so in small quantities, alcohol has actually provided a lot of joy in my life. And so to me, I think some people need to abstain 100%.
Yeah.
But there's others who can learn how to manage it.
Well, first of all, that last statement is 100% true.
Yeah.
That last statement is 100% true. And what upsets me about the industry that I kind of came into is that it's shifting slightly in the last 15 years that I've been doing this work. But when I started this, I would get threatening phone calls from people who would look at the book or look at my
There's
work,
all or nothing people
saying you're going to kill
you're
people.
putting the wrong message out. Yeah.
I said, hey, millions of people are dying. So I would argue that what we're doing currently is killing people, and somebody needs a new method. And you said it very carefully, right? So some people need to abstain, some people can learn to control it. My argument is this: the behavior, the drinking excessively, when you're drinking as your central coping mechanism, it's all you do to deal with the world. That's the symptom.
Right.
And it's a little bit like, let's say you broke your leg, right? Like that tibia fibula break that I had. My leg really, really hurts. If you give me morphine or if you give me even, Tylenol or whatever, the pain will subside. The symptom will go away. My leg's still broken.
Right.
If you don't fix the break, I'm going to hurt for years.
Right.
But if you do the hard work, right? Like for me, they had to do surgery. They had to put a rod in my tibia. Like if you do the hard work, which I think we both agree, the work we teach people to do is not easy.
It's not easy. No.
It is.
You know what I mean?
If you're looking for a silver bullet, I'm not your guy.
Right.
That's not what I'm proposing.
Same
what
here.
I'm proposing is do the hard work. And once you do it thoroughly, not only are you ages beyond where you were before in terms of being able to cope, but also you now have a method.
Right.
So every single time that you feel the pain,
if you get triggered, you got to process.
You got a cycle that you can go through. And that's what I talk about in the abstinence myth is stop looking for simple solutions. Abstinence will only get rid of your medicine. You're still going to have to go do the deep work. And if you do the deep work, you may not have to quit for the rest of your life. Like
or it may just disappear anyways.
Yeah, I probably drink, I don't even know, 3 times a month. Like, and it's a joke in my house now. I'll pour a glass of wine and I'll drink half of it and I'm done. But that, again, it took much work to get to the place where I'm not coping through alcohol anymore.
And that work is to get to the root cause. Is there a singular root cause? Like I would say, like if someone asked me that, I'd be like, yeah, it's like disconnection from yourself, higher as self. Like
so I have an answer in there because I've been asked this question so many times on podcasts before. And I think it actually completely connects to what you just said. It's just a different way of looking at it. We lie too much. We lie to ourselves, and by extension, we lie to other people. And if you can just do whatever work is necessary for you internally to constantly go back to, I call it even transparency, not honesty, because honesty is if you ask me a question, I'll tell you the right answer. I want transparency. I want to be able to tell you what you need to know, even if you don't know to ask the question. And it's, you can't do it with everybody, right? You're not going to walk in the middle of the street and tell somebody that your wife just cheated on you and it's killing you and you don't know if you're going to be able to stay together and what was going to happen. I'm not asking for that, but you need to have some people in your life that you can have transparency with because the weight, and I know this personally, the weight of lying, the weight of pretending, the weight of disconnecting from your true self by creating this armor of who you pretend to be, the mask, it kills us.
Yeah. So that'd be akin to like a sponsor in a 12-step program or a therapist or just a good mentor.
Yeah.
Someone you can be completely honest with.
Yeah.
And not fear judgment.
Not fear judgment. Believe that they have your best interest at heart. In the book, I call it your personal advisory board.
Yeah.
I recommend having more than one person because the problem with one person, no matter how well-meaning they are, if they're not professionally trained at doing this work, then they can recommend things from their path, things that they've learned. Some of what they've done may work for you, some may not. But if you get it, if in any company, people have advisory boards, right? And what's the point of an advisory board? When the company runs into trouble or they need some guidance, they go to their advisory board and they ask a question. I think we should all have
a variety of perspectives. Yeah. So Unhooked, what's different? Like what's new that you didn't discover and share in your first book, The Abstinence Myth?
So the abstinence myth had kind of like these 9 steps and this idea about removing abstinence as not only the requirement, but also the single way to judge your recovery.
Okay.
So again, if you think everybody has to quit, you can be doing 95% better in terms of your drinking, but that 5% feels like failure because it's abstinence, right? It's 0 to 100. So that was the really main point of the first book. What I realized, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the interim, and I realized people really need a relatively simple system to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm sure the same happens in your trainings.
Mm-hmm.
You make things too complex,
Yeah.
and even if it's great, nobody can follow it or remember it
That's
when
an
it's
excellent
important.
point. Yeah, we've got all sorts of tools and practices and processes, and everyone wants to try them all. Right? They add them to their daily schedule, and then they get overwhelmed. And they don't do anything.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. They burn out on it.
Right.
So what I wanted to do for people is there's essentially two pieces of the Unhooked method. The first one is what I call the SPARO Loop, SPARO, and it just explains to you why you behave the way you behave.
Mm-hmm.
So I can talk about it here more in a second, but essentially stimulus, which is like a trigger, stimulus, perception, activation, response, outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens in the world, internally or externally.
Mm-hmm.
You interpret it a certain way based on your previous learning, what you saw as a kid, what you learned in school, why you
filters through your
world.
conditioned model. Yes,
and that filter is incredibly important.
Yeah,
most people think the trigger is what matters. I think the perception is what matters.
100%.
Mindset, right?
Yeah.
That perception creates a physiological activation.
Mm-hmm.
So that physiological activation, in my opinion, is actually what you respond to. Yeah. You're trying to calm and activate a nervous system.
It puts you out of balance, so you feel the sense of anxiety. And you have this intense urge to get back into balance somehow. 100%. And so you've got your go-tos, which work.
100%. Yeah,
and so you go to them.
So stimulus, perception, the filter, activation, physiology, response is exactly what you just said. It's that limited menu that you developed over time to deal with that, with the pain, with the discomfort, with the activation. Well, the problem is you probably learned these things when you were 8, 12, 4.
Yeah. And usually
15.
they're trauma-informed responses that worked for you then. In fact, they were critical for your survival then.
Exactly.
But they don't work.
You needed them back then. They are maladaptive now.
Right.
But you keep going to the same menu. I kind of equate it to if anybody has a favorite restaurant you go to, you don't even look at the menu anymore. You walk in, you're like, I'm going to have the fettuccine Alfredo and I'm going to have this to drink. Right? You kind of, because you've been at this restaurant 175 times, you always get the same thing. Right. And it could be like the Cheesecake Factory where they have a book of things to order and there's only 1 or 2 things you order. That's the same thing with responding to your activation. Oh, I'm really, really activated. Well, I either scream at somebody or I have a drink. Well, I don't really want to scream at anybody. I'm in the middle of work. Let me sneak in a drink, right? So you do that. And then the response creates an outcome. What I teach people is, and this is another important thing, and I want to hear how you feel about this, is so you go through the cycle. That just explains all behavior. It's not just addictive behavior. The addictive behavior is the responses that are maladaptive, and sometimes, not always, by the way, if they led to negative outcomes all the time, you'd stop them. But sometimes they lead to really negative outcomes. Most people get stuck in this cycle. I kind of redrew it back here on my notes so I would remember to talk about it. But they have a negative outcome. They go, oh my God, I blacked out and I screamed at my wife, or I acted like a fool at the Christmas party, or I got a DUI. Well, I drank, so I got a DUI. I should stop the drinking. And then they try to stop the drinking. But they can't,
and because they don't address the trigger, or not the trigger, but the
everything before is still there, so it pushes. So maybe they white knuckle it and they try for weeks, maybe a couple of months. They can not drink, and then all of a sudden they do the same thing. All my clients always do, and they say, "F it, I'm done. I gotta have a drink right now." And
or they're extremely disciplined, and they keep white knuckling it, and they turn into a dry drunk, or just an angry person,
unhappy,
because they don't have an outlet for all that trauma stuff.
Yes, and I just want to say, many of the people they develop another unhealthy coping strategy. So they'll.
I'm thinking of one person in particular. He just took his addiction into work and making money, and gambling,
and then they still can lose their family, right? They can still
for sure
alienate everybody else. So that's the first thing is SPARO just explains to you why you behave the way you behave. Because I think
that's a great model.
I think we're really scared of when we do things that we don't understand ourselves. It's freaky. I mean, it's crazy. You know how many times I would wake up in the morning? You do, because I wake up in the morning and I say, oh, I don't need the drugs. I'm good today. And by 3 p.m., I'm using again, completely out of control. And I'm literally looking at myself going, what the hell is wrong with you? Right?
100%.
My dad might be visiting literally in the room next door.
Yeah.
And I'm smoking.
I think anyone
bedroom.
Who's struggling with addiction can identify with that. The morning they wake up, they feel like shit. They have some regrets. They're like, okay, I'm done. And by 3 or 4 o'clock, like, boy, I'll just have a drink because it sure would relieve some stress.
And we're talking about alcohol and drugs, and they're a big piece of the people that I work with, but sex addiction.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Porn or going outside of your marriage, right? We talked about work. There are a lot of technology addiction, right? People dive in and just like watch YouTube for 7 hours because they just do not want to let the real world in. So there are a lot of different forms of addiction that are just compulsive behaviors that keep repeating.
Mhm.
You know how many people I know that play these stupid video games on their phone for hours a day? Because they just need to block out the world.
Right.
So SPARO explains why you behave the way you behave. But then, and I actually heard this when I was listening to another episode of your podcast, and I love that you got to this. I think those negative outcomes, failure is your best opportunity to learn.
That's right.
So what I have to do with most of my clients, I say, look, every time something bad happens, a DUI, you black out, pause. Don't go fix anything yet. Start looking at what the hell just happened. What broke down?
Right.
You can look at SPARO, figure out another way to look at it, but you have to know why this happened and just be really honest with yourself. Oh my God, I had a horrible week at work and I didn't want to tell my wife and I'm struggling financially and I think we may lose the house and I can't, she and I don't talk about anything serious. So I figured I'll drink, but then I drank too much and, I started blacking out. Or, you know how many people I know who are in horrible marriages, like sexless marriages for years? And so they start acting out in other ways in order to fulfill their needs when what they really need to deal with is the marriage or the relationship that they're in. So the negative outcome, then on the bottom of SPARO, I have this thing called EAT, explore, accept, transform. Explore, you got to know why this happened. If you don't know, it's like I use a red, yellow, green light kind of metaphor. If you don't know why the relapse just happened, do not pass go.
Right.
Go talk to a therapist, go talk to a sponsor, go talk to a friend. Hey, I'm freaking out. I don't know why this happened. You break it down. And then, and this is what I heard in your podcast, you've got to get into acceptance.
For sure.
You've got to get into this place where you just say to yourself, oh my God.
Don't beat yourself up because you're just, this energy of fighting against that which you don't want attracts more of it. That's basic, fundamental reflective universe law of attraction. If you fight it, you're going to reinforce it. And you're shore it up.
And what you're trying to do is you kind of try to separate yourself from a part of yourself, like you said before.
You split it back off.
It's still there.
It's still there.
It's still
In
there.
fact, it's there with more energy.
Yeah, now it's trying to fight back for awareness.
Right. So acceptance is basically just stepping away and saying, oh, yeah.
Reducing judgment.
Yeah, there by the grace of God go I, yeah.
I learned to do this when I was 8 or 12. I do a lot of visualizations of your back, your earlier life. I learned to do this when I was 8 or 12. This is why it made sense back then. I haven't learned a new coping strategy because I've been leaning on this for 20 years. Okay. Like first you have to sit with it. By the way, meditation and mindfulness to me are some of the best practices because why can't people do meditation? Because they close their eyes and get flooded with all the thoughts they try to ignore all the time. Right. And then they freak out.
Yeah.
I go,
it's
no,
uncomfortable.
No.
Yeah.
Sit with it.
Right.
It's okay. These are the horrible thoughts that have been chasing you the whole time. Joseph Campbell has this beautiful quote in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. He says, the cave you fear the most is the one that holds your treasure. Yeah. And what I take from that is I can help a client in 5 minutes. I can figure out through a conversation with them what the thing is that they're most afraid to talk about. I don't want to talk about my mom. I lost my girlfriend.
What type of questions do you ask to get there?
So I try to get stories from their childhood. What was it like? What was it like fighting at home? How were your parents? What was a typical day? What was your favorite memory, your least favorite? I just try to get them out of their head and into the feeling of what the past was like. And I say, what did you love most? What did you hate most about growing up? And almost always within 5 minutes might be an exaggeration, 30 minutes of a conversation with somebody, I'll touch on things that they really are uncomfortable talking about. I go, great. If I really need to be quick, I'll say, look, I don't know when we'll get to this, but I promise you that until we get to this, we're not fixing what's going on right now.
That's their cave.
we can go slow. I don't need to speed you up to it. But hey, your mom being a maniacal control freak that would lock you in your room until you got your homework done, and so you spent weekends in your room for years of your life in high school, we're going to have to deal with that at some point, right? There's no way we're escaping that. So if you don't want to touch it right now, that's okay, but I'm just letting you know right now. So that's the acceptance piece. And then, and I want to hear how you feel about this, when you've explored and you've reached acceptance or to the best of your ability in any moment, because it's a cyclical thing, right? You keep iterating. Transformation is actually a really fun process. I heard you talking about these really difficult workouts you do. I don't think challenge is scary when you don't feel as if you're trying to fix parts of yourself, but instead it's like an exploration. It's like a scavenger hunt.
100% agree.
I think challenge
because
is
you're, acceptance. I mean, if you use Dr. Hawkins' kind of model, right now, and it takes courage to get to acceptance. So you're operating out of shame and guilt. through the work with a mentor or a coach, right, or a therapist, like they help you tap into your courage, which is your heart core, which pulls you out of the negative into positive territory.
Yeah.
So after courage comes the acceptance. Yeah. And then with acceptance, after acceptance comes forgiveness. Once you get to acceptance and the ability to forgive yourself and the world that did so much harm to you, then now you're operating at such high level of positive energy that you can't experience it as negative anymore.
Yeah.
Right. You can still get triggered back there, but the more you practice this process of awareness, acceptance, forgiveness, right, the more you train your mind, your attitude, your energy, your vibrational quality to stay in that positive frequency. And then you experience growth as joyful.
Yes. And by the way, I love that you mentioned forgiveness because I think that's a huge part of acceptance. Because what
acceptance is the first. It's like opening the door.
Yeah, but
the other side of the door is forgiveness.
My mom loved me. She just didn't come from a place where touch was a big thing. So I never got a hug, but not because she didn't love me. She was doing her best, right? So that's forgiving her, forgiving me for reacting the way I ended up reacting to it. All that together releases you in such a beautiful way. And then my experience now, you start looking for the challenges.
Right.
Because you know that putting yourself, you said this also, I tell my clients this all the time. Every single day, you better do something that feels really hard. By the way, it doesn't have to be a workout. It could be a hard conversation. It could be talking to somebody about something that you dread. That could be a hard thing for the day, but you better do something.
I 100% agree with you. It's kind of like the yin and the yang, right? So people they've got yoga, they got meditation, they've got their breath work and ice bath, right? Yep. Which I don't look at that as hard at all. That's kind of fun. And so all these practices actually are very comforting to them.
Yes.
And so then those become like, well, I'm doing all these things and so I'm okay. But like you said, if you're not like leaning into that one thing where that's hidden in that cave, like leaning into that every single day and dealing with that discomfort instead of glossing it over with new things that are maybe healthier than the alcohol or the rage, you're still going to get stuck.
Yeah. And it's, by the way, this process never ends. Let me be clear.
There's no there.
You never reach it because what ends up happening, like you mentioned, ice bath, right? I've been with bikers, all tatted up, ex-heroin users, spent decades in prison, and an ice bath freaks them out. Like they're losing it in the ice bath, screaming, not being able to handle it. And I have to teach them to just slow your breath.
Yeah.
Don't stop fighting the water. The water's going to stay cold. It's never going to get warmer. Like calm yourself down. And sometimes they can't do it the first 5 times they do it. So for them, it doesn't matter that they're bikers and they used to shoot people and kill them. Like ice water, really tough.
Yeah.
But here's what I remind them. If you do this 50 times, 100 times, it's not going to be tough anymore.
Right.
And then you have to look for something else that's hard.
Right.
Every single day. It might be the conversation with your wife that you've been avoiding, but you have to do the ice bath first, right? To teach yourself that hard is good.
Yeah.
And that's
do the hard thing first. That's what I like. I mean, it's not always possible, but if you can get the hard out of the way, right, it builds such an incredible foundation. We call it winning in your mind before you step foot in the battlefield. So fortify the ship by doing the hard thing first. That's why I like hard physical workout first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I did
ice bath second thing in the morning.
I did a Barry's literally I had to leave the house around 7 o'clock to get here on time, like 6 a.m. workout at Barry's. And I wake up at 5 something anyway, but that was, sometimes I got to put myself in a place where somebody's going to push me to the edge of workout because I wouldn't do that as hard myself. But it's just knowing yourself. And to me, it's like this beautiful place you get to live in where you stop looking for comfort as a regular piece of the puzzle, because when you're too comfortable over time, and it starts pretty quickly, you're actually just sliding backwards all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so
easy makes us weak.
Oh, and what's that sentence? Like hard times make strong people make easy times make weak people. And so I'm dealing with right now, right? Look, dealt with drugs, had a lot of issues around relationships because I came from a family that had not no love. My parents stayed together, so my dad passed away, but like no emotional intimacy, I'll say. Had to learn that in my marriage, right? We've been married 16 years now, and now I'm dealing with parenting. I got 3 kids, 15, 13, and 7. And I went between my wife and I were like, I don't have this parenting thing down. So I'm getting a parenting coach, right? It's just like, I remind people all the time, don't listen to gurus and believe your guru is not doing the job, stop listening to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's a good helper that I've ever learned is always in the work themselves.
What I love about what you're saying is that growth is multidimensional. I always said we have like 5 mountains: physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual. That's 5 different skills. Now, intuitional, spiritual, maybe you could lump that together.
Mm.
So now you have your spiritual guide, guru, you have your emotional coach, right? You have your mental coach, right? Or you might have like, that might show up through like a skill, like executive coaching or,
Sure.
Parenting. I think a lot of people do the bypassing because they think, well, I found my one thing.
Yeah.
It could be yoga, it could be psychedelics, it could be meditation.
Yeah.
And they think that one thing is going to fix all things. And it doesn't.
Man, you mentioned psychedelics right now, and I just want to speak because I actually do that work with clients and have for years. And I got some training in it. And it's ironic to me because in my past, like, drugs were part of my job, but in a very different way. And so it took me a little time to get around to that.
Right.
But you're so right. It's sad to me how many silver bullets people look for.
That's right. They want the quick fix.
And they find psychedelics and it gives this moment of awakening.
Right.
And then they do no more work around the awakening. So
And they lean on psychedelics and turn that into an addiction.
That's another escape. Like if you're having psychedelic journeys weekly.
Yeah, that's standby. You should look at that.
You probably need to look at that.
100%.
Right? And I haven't found a single silver bullet. People come to me all the time and say, well, what's the one thing that matters most? And like I said, the thing I tell them is stop lying. It sounds easy. But what you end up finding is you probably wear 50 masks.
It's just a gateway, a doorway into all the other things you got to look at.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there's 1,000 paths up the hill, right? Most people are running around the base of the hill, tasting different things, but never actually going through.
I love that.
And climbing, right? Which is metaphor for doing the deep work.
I love that. Yeah.
So your company is named Ignite.
Ignited.
IGNTD, right? Is that it?
Yeah, I thought I was being smart when I started.
It probably confused a lot of people when they Google.
Hell out of people. It's the dumbest thing I've ever done. It's almost like the Aladdin, secret code for the cave. Right. It's funny because like nobody actually knows what IGNTD stands for, and then once I teach them, they know. So it's like I've separated the world into people who have an idea what I do, and other people are like, "What is IGNTD again?" But it's called Ignited because the whole point is I don't help.
You have to pay for SEO on the word ignited spelled out to its full extent.
It's a nightmare. It's so. I wish I would have known that 8 years ago. But the reason I called it Ignited is people think that getting help around mental health and recovery is about removing. And my point is no. It's about finding your purpose and creating the fire within you. Right. And so
that provides the motivation to do the deep work because you find you got all these things holding you back, all these obstacles, all these shadow issues.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the motivation, then complacency sets in. So finding purpose, like you've claimed to have fallen into your purpose or you kind of worked your way there. I think the universe had a lot to do with that, right?
Sure.
Call it what you will. God led you down that path.
Well, that's the thing is it's like more and more closed paths, more and more dead ends until you reach one. But you have to keep looking, though. You can't stop looking.
No, you can't. Right. And here's a challenge. Like the older you get, the more people stop looking because they think it's too late.
Oh, my God. Totally.
That life of quiet desperation kind of kicks in and then, man, they stop.
And I think giving up. So, we talked about failure earlier. I think failure is actually a learning opportunity. And so the only true failure ends up when you give up. And when you stop trying to get better, when you stop believing that there's a path out. And that's the worst kind of death. That's like an emotional, spiritual death.
Right. We said in the SEALs, there's no such thing as failure, just the failure to learn. But it's more like the failure to grow. Like the distinction between learning and growing. Learning is about knowledge. Growth is about transformation.
Yeah, there's a Thomas Watson quote. If you want to succeed more, double your failure rate.
I love it.
And I got to tell you, that completely shifted my perspective. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think there's actually an add-on, and it speaks to what you just mentioned right now. Yeah, the more failures you have, the more opportunities you have to learn. But the failure alone is not the learning. No. You have to take the failure, understand
examine it,
shift your behavior, and then fail again.
Then try something new based upon what you learned, and then, that didn't work out.
Because there are a lot of people who just
breathe,
fail.
What happened? Right.
There are a lot of people who just fail over and over, and miss the part where you have to understand the failure and change.
Right.
And they just go like, oh, I'll just, this can't get
Interesting.
worse. And it just keeps getting worse.
Wow. We got to wrap up now, but if someone's listening to this and they're like, wow, this is really compelling. What's the first thing I do? What do I do now?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I literally wrote the book as kind of like a choose your own adventure. If you want easy to get help that can really help you understand your behavior.
So you got a lot of tools and models in the book.
Ton of
so
tools. I think
so it can meet people where they're at, right?
So the way I break it down is each one of the, stimulus, perception, activation, response, outcome. Each one of those has its own chapter because some people feel like they're more ready to deal with the activation. And by the way, I think the only thing I really did in the book is I took CBT, which is really stimulus, perception, behavior. And what I added was the trauma-informed physiological activation component, right? Because body keeps a score, like all these books about
that's
trauma.
always been my critique with cognitive behavioral therapy, right? You're not getting into the trauma patterns and triggers.
You're not getting into trauma. It doesn't talk about the body at all.
Right.
And so my background, PhD in psychology, but my focus was behavioral neuroscience. It's like, well, look, your brain interprets everything based on signals. And so you get signals from your body. We now know, by the way, I mean, there's a ton of research around the fact that your gut, I mean, I'm sure you've had guests around this, but your gut holds serotonin and dopamine and a lot of opioid receptors. And so there's been much research on the fact that what you eat impacts your mental health. I mean, how do you not connect the body and the mind?
Right.
And so that's really the big thing for me around SPARO is you got to bring those two together.
I wanted to read a quote from David Bohm. You've probably heard this before. Reality is what we take to be true. What we take to be true is what we believe. What we believe is based upon our perceptions. What we perceive depends upon what we look for. What we look for depends upon what we think. What we think depends upon what we perceive. What we perceive determines what we believe. What we believe determines what we take to be true. And what we take to be true is our reality. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? It's a full circle. Yeah. It's like, we think it's like one directional, like objective, subjective, but no, it's the subjective creates the experience or the conditions of the objective.
Yeah.
And then we take that back in as our perceived reality.
There's something I want to say about this right now that has nothing to do with addiction, but it has to do with our society right now. And I just, I was just having you talked about Charlie Kirk when we, before we started. I don't even know if it was on the recorded or not, but I think something strange is happening in our society right now where conflicted perspectives are seen as a threat. And so we're getting closer and closer to the place where unless you and I agree on everything, we can't talk to one another.
Can't talk. And not only that, we're going to vilify each other.
Or kill each other, right? I mean, so...
Well, you're probably experiencing that from the whole Israel-Hamas thing.
My goodness. That's insane. I've lost friends over it. It's crazy. And I mean, we can talk for hours about this piece, but different perspectives, even because of this quote that you said, and I use this in the book, and I call it my mountain example, but we all have a different perspective of the world.
Everyone.
There's
8 billion worlds, not one world.
Let's just accept that. Right. So if you accept that, my version cannot be so much more true than yours that it supersedes yours, right? Because you've had yours based on your experience. My belief is we need to get back to a place where we understand that my perspective is limited. By understanding yours, I get a truer version of the world. And if I actually have friends who have 50 different opinions, my overall understanding of what's happening around me is greater.
It's greatly enhanced, right?
Because
you're able to see the world through 50 different eyes.
Yes, because at any moment, I can only see my version. Right. Even if I shift, right? If I completely shift my behavior, I can then learn to see it from here. I've now lost this perspective. I can maybe remember what it was like, but I don't have it anymore. Right? It's like when you believed in Santa Claus, right? And then someday somebody told you that Santa Claus doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's a radical shift.
You've now shifted your universe. You can't go back to believing Santa Claus existed. It's the same for us every single time that we shift our beliefs. Our goal, and I think this will help with anybody's compulsive behavior too, but our goal is to get into a place where we can be more accepting. I think
100%.
It is dangerous.
The broadest possible perspective will lead to the highest quality life.
It is a dangerous direction we're heading in.
I agree.
And look, I have things I'm against, right? Of course, I'm not bias free. I'm not judgment free. I need to look for bridges,
for sure,
more than walls.
Yeah, and that's the idea that you're going to ignore the sanctity of life because you don't agree with an opinion is stunning to me.
Yeah. crazy.
Let's hope we can, well, the work that you're doing is helping, right?
Yeah.
So I love the positive side of what's happening in the world too, right? Like we have platforms like podcasts and social media to like, project positivity and healing and growth.
That's our job.
That's
right?
our job, right?
Our
So
job.
we got to stay in our lane,
Amen.
stay focused and do our own work because we have to lead by example or we lose our credibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, well, thanks for doing the work. Thanks for your book. Thanks for bringing me a copy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Mark.
Yeah, it's great to see you and stand by to support if there's anything we can do.
Wonderful. Again, thanks for having this platform. Like I was saying, I was listening to your episodes and so much of what you say to me resonates with the work I do. It's great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks a lot, man.
Actually, let me do that. Going underneath it. All right, I'm going to read the outro real quick. Wow, what an incredible conversation with Dr. Adi Jaffe. Thanks so much for joining me today. We appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you for tuning in to the Mark Divine Show. I super appreciate you walking this path of leadership and growth and impact with me. Thanks for sharing the podcast with your friends. If you like what you hear, please rate and review it wherever you listen and pay it forward. Share this episode in particular. I think it'd help a lot of people, especially if you know someone who's struggling with addiction. To learn more about what I do, go to unbeatablemind.com to discover how to work with me directly, or check out our new 3-day virtual challenge at unbeatableleader.com. And you can reach Dr. Jaffe at
djaffe.com is probably the best place.
djaffe.com?
Yeah, just my full name.
djaffe.com.
adijaffe.com.
adijaffe.com. adijaffe.com.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so go check them out there and reach out if you can help you out. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Mark Divine Official for additional insights, or if you have recommendations for guests or things you'd like me to hit up. Till next time, stay focused and get unhooked. Hoo-yah. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you, man.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was
Really nice conversation.
Really appreciate it.